Hello, everybody. Welcome to the lunch hour with Dingo and the baby.
Woo!
Hey, baby. Today we're talking about technology and how it is used in everyday life, and if there's a separation between the newer generation and the older generation in its newer uses. All right?
All right.
All right. We're going to start off with the military. Back then, the military was guns, tanks, cars. Today, it is drones you pilot from across the world, um, and super weapons, I guess you could say, like nukes or uh, bombs like that. How has the vision of war and technology in the military, do you think has changed throughout the generations? And what is,
Well,
yeah.
okay. Well, here's what I think's happened. I think if you look at the olden days, kind of you saw a lot more like hands-on wars, right? Going in there, bloodshed, kind of like, just think about 1960s and like movies, for example, movie wars, bloodshed, big strategic battles. Where nowadays, I feel like you're able to kind of keep bloodshed at a minimum and keep lives more safe. No one wants to have lives being lost, recklessly. So I feel like having technology has allowed them to shift from that. Drone strikes, as you mentioned, was really a good point because now if you want to go ahead and send a message, you don't have to send a bunch of people in. You could send a drone strike and maybe drop a bomb, not like a huge bomb, just a minor one, but let the kind of get some message across. Or let's look at the Iran war, for example, right?
Hmm.
I mean, you had bombs being dropped there, and that way, in some cases where they were sure they could have had troops sent in, but sending a bomb kind of at some points did their job. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
I also think that, I don't know, technology in general is just kind of grown, and I feel like you'll continue to see it grow over time where there'll be even more capabilities. I think that even 20 years from now, you'll see like very few actual in-person wars. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Well, let me ask you this then. Most countries now have major devastating weapons like larger and powerful bombs that would be catastrophic to anything. Why is there still wars if we have these massive bombs? Wouldn't we want to use them instead of soldiers or even drone strikes? Strikes, my bad.
Well, I think that when you're talking about such a mass weapon destruction, that's kind of what I feel like most people's fear is in the common world. So they want that to be their last resort if you're talking about dropping a massive bomb. Because what happens with that is another country responds with dropping a bomb, then that country's alliance responds with a bomb strike, and then that country's alliances drops bombs, and it just turns into an all-out bomb war. Where I feel like sometimes if you just do it kind of like just down and dirty, it kind of minimizes it in a way. You don't have so many people involved where maybe a country starts to get nervous and so they get trigger happy with the mentality of, oh, let's bomb them before they bomb us.
Hmm.
Where if you go ahead and keep it just in person, sure, there might be more casualties lost from those individual countries,
Okay.
but you're able to minimize the total bombings that might happen from everywhere else.
Okay. Branching off of that just a little bit, then today in wars, can there actually be a winner? Because if both countries or wherever have like really powerful weapons, can there really be a true winner? Because wouldn't the loser just use that last resort before they get taken
um
over?
I think there can be a winner. I don't think there can be an overall super like dominant winner, but you can, let's say, take over like a region of a place. If you want to take over a region of a country, that can be considered a win. You can have small victories that might even eventually come up to a pretty big victory, but in total you're not going to have this like complete taken over, because no country is going to let themselves completely be taken over without dropping a bomb as their final resort, like you said. But you can have small victories where you start to put pressure. Instead of having that bomb drop, maybe you guys form a peace alliance or a coalition where maybe you get better maybe you get some of their goods or something to stop the war so they get back their land, but you in turn, the country you invaded them might get more profits and might be more beneficial for you since you are the more dominant force.
Okay. Um, so just to recap, the difference between newer technologies and older ones versus or in the military setting is it is a lot safer to go to war because we have more advanced militaries like drone strikes and I guess last resort weapons versus we don't need as many on ground boots, right?
It is safer for the invading country or the invading army, but the people who are being invaded, they don't know when that bomb strike's happening. Where sure, you might see the military coming in, but you know the military's coming in. You know what I mean? You kind of have that advance, like, oh,
Hmm.
watch out, they're coming. But a bomb strike can happen at any time, and you don't know.
Yeah. All right. We're going to move out of the military setting and go into the medical field in hospitals more specifically, like MRI, scans, and those more advanced things for better diagnosis in the body and the brain. Um,
Okay.
how has that uh, been like used versus how it was back then, and like how has that been a difference?
Well, I can't specifically speak on the brain things, but if you look at just medically in general over time, you know things have gotten better. You know that over time you're generally going to have more technological advances, which give you greater power to, go ahead and get more health and save people. For example, I mean, maybe if you just want to say even cancer has been easier to fight over time, where if you look in the 1960s, if you had cancer, it was a lot more deadly. And sure, cancer is still deadly, but you have much more greater effects like chemotherapy and all that and radiation. And you're having just a better shot in general. Or if you have like, yeah, let's say you have brain damage, or a brain injury, maybe now they're able to treat it or, kind of make the damages less serious, where before it was just basically your life's over. Or heart attack, for example. Now you can treat the heart much better and even make, in some cases, the heart, maybe even get a fake heart. You know how you can have a fake heart, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So I mean, now you
uh,
can have a fake heart.
yeah. Oops. Yeah, I think yeah, I agree with you pretty much on that one.
I
Um,
mean, you're seeing people like make technological advances towards even farther things. I mean, you're seeing, DNA editing is starting to be a big thing now. And I think in 25 years, we're like, wow, DNA editing is really getting there. Should that be allowed?
yeah, I think the DNA editing nowadays though is super dangerous and it causes a lot of problems later on with the
Mm-hmm.
body's ability to gather. But yeah, 20, 30 years, I think it could be a thing and people could DNA edit themselves to be stronger, taller,
Play
different
God.
colored hair, natural, yeah, play God with their own selves or even others if used in
Mm-hmm.
the wrong
Play
way.
like bit life.
Yeah. Um,
It'll be like bit life.
right? Only you can't skip 6 to a year in a tap. Uh,
Mm-hmm. Who knows? Maybe they'll do that too.
time warp.
Yep.
All right. Coming out of the medical field, we're gonna go with technology and home use. So the older generation, they grew up with I was gonna say candles, but not quite that far back. Um, with lighting, maybe an home line phone, and that versus today we have Alexas and Siris in our house who control our lights and TVs and all this other stuff. Do you think there's a
Sure.
slight disconnection from the generations with all of that?
I think, yeah, I mean, over time, you're starting to see generations start to be out of touch a little bit and overall have a basic, I mean, a lack of understanding of what's going on in today's society. I mean, you're seeing people might not know what real news is happening in the world because you have like TikTok, for example, spreading fake information now. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Where before, really, people watch reliable sources on TV. They didn't have a TikTok or Instagram Reels or any of that stuff to go to. But now, I mean, everyone has that. I'm sure most people in the world who own a phone have some type of social media, um, you know, technology, and now might have bias, and they might not even know what's happening in today's world, and that's super scary.
Yeah, I
So I think there is a disconnect.
yeah, I think so. Do you see many of the older generations getting these newer advances for their own homes?
Um, I don't know if I see it, but I know it's there. I know people want those Apple devices, the cool Hey Series, Hey Google, all that type of stuff. And I mean, it's convenient, sure, but they don't realize the underlying effects of having one of those. How do you feel about having one of those?
Um, I think it'd be great to have one that can control like everything, like locks on your doors, your lights, like basically the entire house, but it would need to be safe proof, but that could be a thing in the future, 20
But
years.
what's really safe? I mean, starts to get scary.
Yeah, because as technology advances, we have to advance our safeties because hackers and dangers in the world also become technologically advanced.
Yeah. Everything grows over time. It's not just us. It's not just criminals are staying down there. No, criminals are becoming smarter too.
hmm hmm Um, so from your own personal experience here, you
Okay.
don't have to be specific or anything, but your house, what what's the most technologically advanced things that you have in your house, and would you see those in older people's houses?
I have like a Hey Google, those stuff where I don't know what it's exactly called, but we all know what it is.
hmm
I have like two or three of those, probably actually like four or five, and I definitely don't see those in any of my grandparents' house. I think that's just because obviously they don't need this stuff because they didn't grow up with it, they didn't grow old with it even. So now they don't really need it. And most people, sure, there might be a few exceptions where they're like, oh, this is really cool. But most of those people aren't interested in the stuff because I never grew up with it, never even thought it would be a possibility. So, I mean, I have that. I don't see anyone over the age of 50 having that.
hmm All right.
I mean, do you have any of those?
My house does have one of them, but it doesn't work very well. It's kind of disconnected and kind of broken a little bit. But yeah, I don't see any of those in older generations' houses,
Yeah, I
really.
don't either.
All right. Um, moving away from that, the disabilities in this world for people are very real, obviously. They come from medical diseases to war to just everyday accidents. Like if you lose an arm or a leg back then, there was nothing you could do besides get like a peg leg or a hook, or you just be in a wheelchair for the rest of your life. Whereas technologies nowadays, you see it here and there. Uh, People are having robotic hands that senses their nerves and brain impulses to move the fingers as a normal person would. So,
Okay.
how, how do you think that technology would impact the older generations that have dealt with those disabilities for so long?
I think it would help them greatly. I mean, I think it would give them kind of like I don't know, let's say someone had their arm chopped off. I mean, if you could put something in there to help them, like give them a new arm, that'd be pretty cool. Or even if they've lost nerve damage, right? If people have nerve damage, give them something and help them get their nerves back and help them feel normal. I think it'd help them greatly, just in general, because kind of they might be have gone so long without this stuff that it would kind of be like a whole new life for them. They'd kind of remember what it was like being young when they had their capabilities fully. I think it'd
hmm
overall be greatly helpful. I mean, how would you feel about giving the opportunity to help people who don't have that and now helping them get back to full strength?
I think it'd be a pretty good experience because you would see them be able to do things that they haven't done for years.
Exactly. I think it'd be really good.
But do you think they'd be accepting of new technology that they're going to live with every day of their life?
Or well, do you think are we talking technology that was going to help them?
I mean, like a robotic arm that's going to sleep with you every night for the rest of your life. Do you think they would be accepting of that? Because you can always power off your phone if it gets like too much for you or like that. But do you think? maybe they would be accepting or unaccepting of the strong capabilities of that at first.
It really depends how much the person's come to deal with their disability and how it's really affected them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if someone's strong and independent and learns to and really has no problem without their, let's say, hand, for example, then I don't think maybe they would be more prone to not liking it. But now, if someone who's like, I hate my life, I can't do anything, and they get a new hand and arm and two legs, then they're going to be like, wow, this is game changing. So it
Hmm.
really depends on the person. I would say most 95% would be, even more than that, would be happy to have their arm back.
Do you think the stress of paying for that technology, though, would get to them? Because I think most people with disabilities like that don't have a lot of money for that type of advanced technology.
I mean, sure, that'd be a thing, but hopefully your insurance can help you a little bit. And I'm sure it would. I mean, money stresses everyone out in total. I mean, it does.
Hmm.
So the hope is hopefully over time, it would help, like the pain would be lessened financially. But I think, yes, it would probably have a financial burden on them, but they would also, I think, be more appreciative of the fact they have an arm, and I mean, have a leg and take on that burden rather than not having it.
Okay. Yeah, I'd have to agree with you there.
And I think insurances would probably modify their coverages and probably help cover for a significant part of that, and
Hmm.
insurance would obviously have to adjust to that. But I think overall it'd be helpful and good.
Okay. Do you have any final thoughts or anything you want to loop back to and go into further detail with based on
No, but
anything we've done this podcast?
I just thought I liked your really big point about going back to military, how you're able to just how like drone strikes, for example, are saving lives. And I mean, they can even like now you're seeing them go ahead and affect like wars. I mean, if you remember after 9/11, right? And obviously that's 20 years ago, but it's still newer. You had drones dropping bombs where the Taliban were allowing, that part of Afghanistan to be taken back over. And I mean, that helped influence that war and and made the Taliban lose that region of, Afghanistan. So I mean, I think that's significant. And you're just seeing lives being able to be saved, and no one wants any lives to be lost at the end of the day. So if you're able to save even 10 lives by doing it virtually or doing it over with a drone, that's significant.
Hmm. Yeah. I think drones are one of the biggest military technologies that have truly affected the world in safety for the country that's being controlled by them. Um, Quick and easy, unfearful deaths for the enemy countries, and they're also just like we've gotten to the point where they're almost undetectable unless you just look up in the sky and see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you guys next time.
Later.
Peace out.